Jennifer Davis here with Jayma Anders, a teacher, a CrossFit owner, a weightlifter from North Carolina. And the subject we're talking about today is, does weightlifting destroy your back? What's the short answer, Jayma?
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. But there is a longer answer and a very interesting story that goes along with this, and we're going to delve into it today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's start with your story back in high school. That's when back pain first appeared for you, and you've been a really active guy pretty much your whole life, right? Tell us what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I started working out when I was 15. I was a sophomore in high school. I enjoyed it from the start, but I did have some back pain here and there. I would get back spasms and things that I could feel. Nothing too bad, lower back, but I was going to the chiropractor where I found out that I had a little bit of scoliosis in there. There was a little bit of degenerative disease already at a 15-year-old age, 15 to 17. I was going to the chiropractor.
So definitely some genetic things at play here. What was it about weightlifting? I mean, you've loved it here for a very long time, most of your life. What is
Oh
it
yeah,
about weightlifting that you like?
yeah. It's just that feeling. I think it's very empowering. Once you start, you get that you can feel you're making progress, right? And as soon as you see it in the mirror, as soon as you see the weights going up, you see your body changing. It's just like you're hooked, And me and a friend would go every day, and I had a key to the gym at the time, and I'd be there 11 o'clock at night after work, working out too. So
When you talk about it, it almost sounds like poetry. You talk about the sounds and the feels I mean, it's really it's all of it for you, isn't it? Like the being in the gym and the connections doing it and the actual activity. Is it all of it?
yeah, yeah, it's everything. I mean, just the feel of the weights. We always say it's like the feel of the iron. The sounds that they make when the metal's clanging together. Just everything about it is, yeah. I guess it is poetic.
It
Let me
does.
see
It
what.
really does. It almost sounds like poetry. Okay, so you're doing it from a very early age, and so it sounds like you were learning to do it correctly. Um, did you? At what point did you get injured? When did things start to take a turn?
Yeah, so we tried to be pretty good about what we were doing. I've always been. I was writing programs for my friends when we were, 15 years old, 16, 17. I would study Flex magazine and stuff like that, and we'd get into it, and then it started becoming more of a career after college. After I'd done personal training, a bunch of things through college, I worked at a fitness center for 8 years. So we were teaching trainers how to train, and I was training people. Uh,
And then you opened your own CrossFit gym,
yeah, and
and you were involved in competitions as well. Tell us about that.
yeah. So I had opened a CrossFit gym. We've been open for, I guess, what is that, 13 years now? 2011 when we opened. I had enjoyed doing CrossFit, and CrossFit involves a lot of different weightlifting movements too. And Olympic weightlifting became something I was passionate about. I mean, me and buddies would get at the gym at 4:30 in the morning, and we'd be lifting. So we'd be doing Olympic weightlifting stuff, trying to get it in because that's the time when nobody else can really get in there and bother you, right? It's like it's just you and the weights. So trained for that. I made it to two different national competitions for masters and in two different weight classes. So that was pretty exciting for me.
And so you said by the age of 38, 40, you were in some of the best shape of your life. And that's when your back problems started to really catch up with you too, right?
Yeah, basically got me at the top. So that's when you know I,
Oh,
I had ambitions of being, not just going to nationals, but being on the podium for nationals, and a lot of my numbers were getting really close to that. So I was getting pretty excited about it. 38, 40. I'm like, all right, 40 is my year. I'm in a new age bracket. 40 is where it's at. And then it was like my back was like, no, 40 is where it's at, but not for weightlifting. So
oh, so disappointing. And so what started to happen?
yeah, I had actually injured it as far as like I'd herniated my disc when I was 27, and then it progressively got worse and worse. It would only bother me maybe once a year, but then 30s it started getting a little worse, and then by the time I was 40, it was like every quarter it would knock me out for a couple of days, couple of weeks.
And it was not always weightlifting that did it, right? You said sometimes you would just be walking the dog or just doing some normal activity of life, and that could set it off.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would wake up in the morning and be scared to sneeze, because it's like
Oh,
this could be it. So yeah, walking the dog, it happened before, and that happened a couple of times, and it could be anything, and it wouldn't be anything major. Some days I could work out really hard and I could lift heavy. Other days, if I just moved wrong with hardly any weight, then my back would go out.
at your peak, just because I'm curious, what were you lifting at your peak? How much? What's the most?
I know clean and jerk. I'd got over 300 pounds. I'd snatched, I think, 238. I can't remember what that is in kilos. It was always in kilos when we did it.
Okay,
But
but isn't that crazy? You could lift 300 pounds, but oh my God, a sneeze.
yeah, but
Oh,
watch out for a sneeze. Yeah.
right. Watch out for a sneeze. Okay. And so then you had, there was sort of one big time that you just realized you needed to do something about this. That was in December 2022. What happened then?
Yeah, so it's just I had came in early in the morning again. Well, we were getting back into training pretty hard, and I was just warming up, and I could feel it. And the thing is it's nothing major. What happened? It's like that disc would hit the nerve, and then the nerve would just explode everything, and I could feel just a little twitch, and I thought, oh crap, there it goes, and sure enough, it just progressively got worse and worse and worse, and then my sciatic pain, and that was something that would come and go every once in a while. But this time, the sciatic pain came and it never left, and it just got to where I couldn't sit. I couldn't, I would have to stand, but I would stand and kind of like a dog shaking its leg. I kind of have to keep moving my leg around and stuff. So it was, it got really bad. I had talked to you previously. My wife, if we went to Asheville, which is an hour away for us to go shopping, I would have to lay in the back of the car or lay in my truck bed while she drove the truck because I could not take driving. I could not take sitting. So I
Oh
had to
my
just lay down
gosh.
until we got there.
Okay, so you sought out help and you came up to Virginia, so you had to lay in the truck again while she
8
drove you up
hours.
here,
Yeah.
right? And you came to see Dr. Hassan Jazini at VSI. And what happened when you did? What did he say?
Yeah. So I actually had started searching for somebody because I tried to get some help around here, locally.
You're in North
And
Carolina.
in North Carolina, yeah. So they don't really want to do disc replacement, and I was looking for something that would fix my problem and not just maybe help it or maybe fix it. Like I wanted it fixed.
So
And
spinal fusion didn't feel right to you? Is that
yeah, that was the other option that I had was spine. There's like discectomies, laminectomies, however you say it, and spinal fusion. And yeah, spinal fusion. I was like, no, I don't want to be limited. Like if I'm gonna have surgery, I want to. Is there something out there that can fix me, not limit me in what I'm doing? Um, so there was I researched, and there was a place in Austin, and there was Virginia Spine. And I called Austin. I emailed Austin. They looked like what I thought was the best at the time. I didn't know. Well, they
and
never
you have a
returned.
son there too, so there was actually something
Yeah,
sort of drawing you
yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah. Son's in college there, so I was like, "Oh, cool, we'll go there." But they never returned a call or anything, and I said, "Well, here's this other place, Virginia Spine. Let me check them out." They called me back. They emailed me. They called me back. They even were like, "Hey, you're so far away. Let's set up a Zoom call with the doctor." And we were able to go from there. And I was able to get on the line with Jazini.
And he had you do an MRI, and how bad was it? What did it show?
Yeah, I told my wife it was kind of funny because we had uh, it was the weekend before. Like I got the MRI on Friday or Saturday, and it was about the third or fourth one I've got. Like I already knew what would be on there, but I needed to get an update one for Jazini, and I got on the Zoom call with him that like Monday or Tuesday, and and I'm telling you, this could be a long story about how great he is. I could make it that way because I've got a terrible phone. My phone didn't work. The microphone didn't work. We're going back and forth. He finally got on there, and I'm like, "Hey, my phone cuts off sometimes just by itself." Sure enough, it cut off. He's sitting there, looking on the laptop. We had to use the laptop. Anyway, it was terrible, but he was just patient and just sat there and smiled and talked to me. So anyway, when I got on the phone with him or on the Zoom call, he looked at my MRI and he said, honestly, he said, I don't know how you're sitting here talking to me. And I was like, oh, it made me feel so good though, because I'm like, this is what I'm trying to tell people. Like
I
I'm
mean,
fine.
you're a tough guy. You are. Yeah.
So
Oh, wow. So that was validating, right? Like,
yeah, yeah, very validating because you hear a lot of people like, oh, I've got herniated disc, it bothers me. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not getting out of pain ever. Like this, it was affecting my brain, and I'm sure that's something to kind of talk about a little bit later. But
no,
I was
go into it now. How was it? What do you mean? How you felt?
Yeah, so it was just like being in pain from December to at this point might have been April or May. It was something that just never escaped me. So I'm trying to I coach students at the high school, and then I've got my people at the gym that I'm talking to, and it's like trying to be on point for them at all times. It was very hard to do that while you're also like the only thing you could think about is like, man, this pain's not going away.
Were you trying to hide the pain? Were you honest about it?
Yeah, so I mean, I would talk to people and they would know. I mean, it was getting to the point where like I could maintain my physique to a certain point, right? So I could always look like I could do stuff and I could still do a ton of pull ups and things like that. But I couldn't pick anything off the floor. I couldn't hardly bend over, but you have to play that I'm the coach, I'm strong, I can still move. So you're always kind of hiding it a little bit, right?
How was it impacting you at home? What kind of father and husband were you? And just how did you just feel, from a self-care perspective? Were you
Yeah.
taking care of yourself?
Yeah, and that really was another one of those things that affected me mentally, and that's where like I'll try not to break down while we're on here talking, but it was when you get into the fact of like sometimes oh no baby I can't pick you up, I can't play with you, those types of things like really got to me. I know like our kid would come in from school from Connecticut, so we had an old one. He went to Yale, yay,
Yay.
graduated. He's at Duke now, but he like when he would come in, I swear every time he would come in, it'd be like, "Oh, hey, I'd be in the bed," like, "Hey, can you help your mom with trash and stuff like that?" And it's just like, geez, every time he comes in for break, I'm hurt. It kind of you start realizing like I'm hurt all the time, even though
And
you.
there was one you wanted to play basketball with, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And you
that and
couldn't?
that was the biggest thing, right? So it's like the middle kid was big into basketball. Everybody in the family is big into basketball, but he went to Austin to play, but it was like I would have given anything to play against him, and I couldn't. So it's like that was really tough to not be able to play ball against him, and just to push him and kind of have that like dad son like beating on him and stuff and play. Like I just couldn't do it because I couldn't jump. So
Ugh.
that was the big thing.
Okay, so let's get to the good part. Let's get to where things start to turn around. I mean, Dr. Jazini said he could do surgery. You needed surgery. How did you feel going into surgery, and what was it like?
Yeah, so I guess that's a lot to unpack there, but he
That's all. There's gonna be
there's
a long answer there.
Yeah, but I had to take multiple tests. So there was like a million things you got to do, different X-rays and all that stuff. Make sure your bones are strong enough. Make sure that everything's in place and that that they can fix it. We traveled up there to have an appointment with Jazini, get everything checked
You
out.
lying in the back of the truck, right?
Yeah,
Doing the
yeah,
whole
lying
thing.
in the
Oh,
back of the truck. So and this point we had a Honda Pilot. I just laid down and made kind of a bed in the back, and my wife drove me. So she's a
oh.
trooper for driving that far. I hate to drive anyway, but she drove.
How long was the trip?
It took us straight through. It's about 9 hours, so it took us like 10, 11 to.
So you lay down in the back seat for
Yeah, yeah,
wow.
the
Oh
whole
my
way.
goodness. Okay. And
Uh,
yeah, so he says what? Disc replacement.
Yeah, so he was, he had went through and he was like, this is what it looks like. He's like, that one disc has definitely got to go. It was just getting to where like the stuff around it wouldn't heal. So it's just basically bone on bone. The one above it was bulging, but it was in the nerve and it was getting bad. And he was like, well, what we could do is we could do fusion, a hybrid fusion they do. So do a fusion on the bottom and replace the one on top. He's like, you'll lose whatever it was like 10% mobility, but you'll be out of pain and that type of thing. And we talked for a little while, and I'm like, what would you do? If this was your back, what would you do? And he said, well, I'd do both the discs. And I was like, well, we're doing both the discs. So like, what?
Such a great question.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
whatever you would do, like we'll figure out a way, to be able to do it. So that was the
Were you
plan.
afraid about the fusion part of it, or did the hybrid approach reassure you?
I had just looked so much into yeah, I didn't want a total fusion. The hybrid was like, okay, that sounds okay. But if we can do a multi-level artificial disc replacement, then let's do it because
Then
then I
let's do
still
it.
have full mobility,
So
So
that's what you all went with.
yeah, so that's what we
The
went
two
with.
level. Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. And what was it like?
As far as the surgery and everything went, I mean, I was so confident in his ability and just how calm he was and confident he was in being able to do stuff. And the whole staff there was amazing, from top to bottom. So it's like they make you feel like they're going to be able to help you. And going into surgery, I was not nervous at all. I don't think, like, I don't feel like I was nervous because I was so ready to just like, let's do this. Get me in and out of here. Let's go.
And you said when you remember waking up from surgery, you felt like a race car because they were like, get up, get moving. It was like a
Oh
pit
yeah.
stop, right?
Oh well, it was the beforehand that
Oh,
I
was it the
felt like,
before?
yeah. It's like,
Okay.
so this Dr. Storm, one of the anesthesiologist guys, was amazing, and he had me laughing and stuff as we're getting ready to get it done. So that was good. But I mean, they wheeled me in, and he was like acting like it was like a pit car getting ready to go in. So it kind of kept my mind off of things. It made it a little bit wild, but we
And then
went in.
coming out though, they you got to get back on the track
You
and keep
gotta
moving. There's
walk.
no
Yeah.
there's no resting, right?
Yeah, you got to walk. And they were, I was being a bit of a baby, because I was just like, no, I'm hurting. But it's like it was the stomach area is really the part that kind of hurts you the most out of the whole thing. But I mean, immediately coming out of surgery, my back didn't hurt. My foot didn't hurt. That was my sciatic nerve hurt all the way down to my foot, and my foot would be like it was almost impossible for me to walk again. Like I would have to
You were
start
dragging it a
walking.
little, weren't you?
Yeah, yeah, I had a little bit of drop foot. So, uh, yeah, so there was none of that, and I just had to walk little laps around the hospital, inside the hospital. So,
Did you lay in the car to get back home? Did you have to do that again?
no, we stayed so I stayed 2 days in the hospital. They said I could stay an extra day. We stayed another day in Reston, Virginia, and then when we drove back, I was actually able to sit. My wife the whole time was like, "Are you okay? You can sit, like you're all right
Are
sitting."
you
I'm
sure
like,
this?
"Yeah,
Oh, that's a
this is so
stressful
smart."
drive for the driver. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Mm.
And you took some time off, what, 4 to 6 weeks out of work, right?
I did. Yeah, I did.
And
So,
at what point did you start to think, this might have worked?
well, I think from day one, just the fact that the sciatic nerve didn't hurt anymore, and I had my mind wrapped around, all right, let's just get stronger and let's get better. Let's just move. But it was definitely hard because the first few days, first couple of weeks, my wife would have to help lift my legs into bed. So she had to take a couple of weeks where neither one of us were at the gym doing anything, because she'd have to help me get up and back down and make sure that I didn't do anything stupid. So it's like, yeah, you're
That's a
supposed
full-time job, right?
yeah,
For
that's a
any
full
wife.
time job for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
At what point did you get back in the gym?
Yeah. So I stayed away from our gym, I believe, for 4 weeks. So I made sure because like at some point you're gonna like grab something or touch something or just being around people that might be like, oh hey, how you doing? And, like bump into you and be like, nobody come anywhere near me.
I have a bubble around
Become a
me. Yeah.
bubble. So I think that you're in a lot better shape than you believe. Like I mean, as far as like you're put together pretty good. They do a good job with that. You're just scared you're gonna do something wrong. That's how I was. But that's why that 4 to 6 week mark, I stayed away. But then was making little walks. So I'd walk up our driveway and back down our driveway, just scooting my feet. People probably thought I was crazy out there in a walker in a big robe, just walking out in the cold, just scooting around. But we got
How
we got
long has
better.
it been now?
So I'm at the 6 month mark.
I
Back to
know Dr. Jazini just recently showed me you texted him a video of you doing a handstand, which he was blown away by. So I know, yeah, but you're doing more than that too. You're lifting weights, right?
Yeah, we're back at it now. So I tried to progress very slowly, but I'm back to lifting 135 pounds, which isn't,
That's the same amount from the day
whoa.
you hurt yourself, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, that is actually, yeah. So yesterday I was doing clean and jerks, which is, cleaning it, squatting with it, and then going overhead with it, with 135. And it feels extremely light and fast, which I'm really happy about. But yeah, that was the exact same weight that I was warming up with that hurt me. So we're back 6 months. 6 months later, it feels fine.
Is there a ceiling where you can't go past? What's the plan?
Yeah, so that's a big thing with Jazini said we're the last time we met with him, he said, all right, so nothing over 70%.
What does
Man,
that mean? 70% of
yeah, that was exactly. So I was like, okay, we kind of like went on a little bit, and my wife stopped him, said, okay, so what is 70%? He's like 70% for life. I was like, whoa. Like, yeah, wait. So you're saying nothing over 70%. So we had to talk about it. And yes, what is 70%, right? It's like, I mean, I've lifted some pretty decent weights before. So does that mean 70% of those weights? Or is
right.
it? So my mind has been like, if I can lift it 5 times, I'm probably okay. And I'm only going up by maybe 10 pounds every couple of weeks, allowing my body to get used to it. The big thing, Jazini was like, hey, we fixed those, but he's like, you've got all these other bones on top of
Yeah.
it, all these other discs and backs. So he's like, you got to be really careful. But he said, talk to me in a year and we'll see about 80%. Right. So it was like,
All right.
okay.
It's a fine line, though, right? You certainly don't want to hurt yourself, but the whole point of going through surgery is so you can get back to doing what you love to do, right? So how do you do that without fear? How do you figure it out?
And I think it's just going to take a lot of time. I've watched a bunch of videos recently on strong men and people that have gotten injuries, and they say really it takes a year to a year and a half to get to the point where you're just not scared about it anymore because the muscles have healed, the ligaments have kind of stretched out and healed where they need to be. In my case, the titanium and the bone is fused together, where it needs to be, so you're good. But then you just have to mentally get over that. And I think a big part of it is consistently moving, consistently trying to work, and really having a slow, even progression, which has not always been me. I mean, that's I've kind of been redlining for the last 20 years, but that's
What about at home? Can you play with the kids? Can you pick them up? Can you do basketball yet? And yeah, or are
yeah,
you still working your way where you want to be there?
yeah. One of the last thing I actually sent Jazini was a picture of me touching the rim. So being able to jump up and touch the rim on the basketball goal, so I'm like, all right, we're getting there.
You're getting there.
It's like I want to send him a video of me dunking, and then we'll be there. So it's you
All
know,
right, I'll let them know it's coming.
yeah, it's coming.
What do you hear from your kids? What do you hear from your wife? And how do you feel now?
I feel good. I feel good being able to like not be limited. So that I can help out. Yeah, one of the first things I'm trying to be able to spit it out was my son actually like I couldn't pick him up forever. Well, forever being 4 weeks or whatever it was. Like, buddy, I can't lift you. Like you're not. And I've got videos of me with a 5 pound dumbbell, like squatting and pressing them, but I couldn't lift him yet. And then at one point, I was able to just like pick him up off the bed. It was might have been at the 6 week mark. I'd been out of it, and I could pick him up. And he just stopped. He's like, "You back?" And he was like, "Daddy, can you pick me up?" I was like, "Yeah,
Oh,
buddy, I got you." So just being able to carry him was pretty amazing. To get that back. So and now I
oh,
can just throw him around. So now I just pick him up, and throw him in the air, and catch him and stuff. So it's
ah,
good.
that's amazing. All right, so what do you want to tell other people? Um, if weightlifting's their passion, or if it's some other form of exercise that is really rigorous and challenging, what's the lesson you've learned here, and what would you tell others?
I think that the lesson I've learned is to listen to your body would be the big thing. So I don't think it's weightlifting makes you stronger. Weightlifting will, any kind of exercise in my mind will make you be able to take on life's challenges a lot better. Um, if you don't move, it's like how they say like move it or lose it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like you've got to move around or you're going to lose the ability. Like I want to be 80 years old and I won't be my 40-year-old self, but I want to be able to move and pick up a grandkid, do things that I should be able to do, right? Get out and ride a bike if I need to. But you have to listen to your body. You got to be smart. But also know that there are ways out of it. Like the people that are in pain. And I've tried to send everybody I know that's got back issues like, hey, go get fixed. Like it's possible to go have some help and then get back to doing what you're doing. I mean, I'm able to get back to doing the things I'm doing. I'm able to coach. I'm able to, able to be a dad, able to be a coach at 100%, capacity, keep going. So I'm just,
That's the percentage that
mm,
really matters. What you
yeah,
and Dr. Jazini can work out that 70 or 80%, but
yeah,
I'm glad that the parenting percentage is back to 100%.
yeah.
Jama, so great to talk to you. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.